Viewers, the Herald House scandal shadows the Gandhis like an ominously dark cloud. While the courts are yet to connect, their pronouncements certainly don't absolve the Gandhis of guilt. If anything, this suggests prima facie that the Congress First family has a lot to answer for. Viewers, you know this case in and out now. It's been so discussed in the media that I think if I were to hold a quiz right now, you'd get 10 on 10. Perhaps reading the writing on the wall, the commentary that is coming out all around them, the possibility of an arrest or a raid on their homes, the Gandhis have hit the streets playing the victim card aggressively. They say that they are being harassed because they are speaking out in favor of the people against the government, taking up issues that concern you and I. The trouble is that in doing so, they've also dragged the Congress party into the mire, into this new theatre of the absurd. This virtually makes it incumbent upon leaders of the Congress who have perhaps nothing to do with this scandal to hit the streets in a desperate show of solidarity with their ruling first family. This is not just an act of desperation, but one of profound duplicity. Let me explain, viewers. Time after time, when leaders in parties opposed to the Congress, whether it's the BJP, the Aam Aadmi Party, or the TMC, when these leaders are caught up in corruption cases, the Gandhis and other Congress leaders don't hesitate to call for their resignation. Now, here is some examples. And I want to, viewers, as always, bring the facts right before you. July 2022, just last month, there was a demand for Mr. Sisodia's resignation. Now, who is Mr. Sisodia? Of course, he is the Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi. Why? Because the Congress said to the Commissioner of Excise that this gentleman, Mr. Sisodia, was the kingpin of an excise scam. Can't hide that AAP government's knee-deep in corruption. Delhi Congress to the Commissioner. This was the demand. July 2021, again last year, they demanded the Karnataka Home Minister's resignation. The reason was the alleged PSI recruitment scam. The comment was, Araga Janendra misled government and the public. Yes, viewers, misled the government and the public. Remember, at no point is Sisodia convicted as of today. April 2021, they demanded then Chief Minister Yediyurappa's resignation in Karnataka, allegedly tried to bribe JDS MLAs. The Congress said either resign or be sacked to ensure a fair probe. October 2021, they demand the Goa Chief Minister's resignation. This is again with regards to an alleged corruption case. There was not even an FIR filed at that time. The governor of the state alleged that there was a corruption scandal that involved Pramod Sawant, so therefore the chief minister must go. There was, forget an FIR, there's not even a probe on at that moment in time. December 2020, they demand Smriti Irani's resignation. They say alleged corruption charge after international shooter accused Smriti of graft. Eventually, a trial court gave Smriti a clean chit. But viewers, that's not the point. It's not the point about whether the person was guilty or not. The point is more about the stand the Congress party took. But today the party is rallying behind the Parivar. The Parivar is playing the victim card, refusing to step down. The Gandhis have conveniently clearly forgotten the position they had taken in the past with respect to some of these cases and these leaders, as if their stand, the standard that they sort of wanted to hold others to, doesn't apply to them. What do you make of this, viewers? Should the Gandhis now quit their posts, submit themselves like ordinary citizens to scrutiny? Or should they continue to use the muscle, their party cadre, to come out and shout blue murder because they are in a position of authority to do so? That's the fundamental question tonight. Let's go out and ask these questions. I want to first go across to Tehseen Poonawalla and also Lokesh Jindal, leader of the Congress. And to respond to them will be Amit Malviya, national spokesperson of the BJP. We have commentators, Shubhrashtra and R. Rajagopalan also with us. So let me first come to you, Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla. I have cited at the beginning of this show certain instances when the Congress with great alacrity, even the Gandhis with great alacrity, asked for accountability. I remember a press conference was also held when Kapil Sibal helmed it when he was part of the Congress and took pot shots at Amit Shah's son, Jay Shah, on the back of an article that appeared in a magazine. There was nothing much more. So I want to ask you, everyone else is a fair target. Everyone else must step down for alleged graft, but not the Gandhis. How does this work, sir? Can you explain, Tehseen Poonawalla?
Namaskar, Rahul. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Namaskar to all my fellow panelists and to all your viewers. Very pertinent question you've asked. And the fact of the matter is that when Amit Shahji's son was accused, when Ajay Mishra Teni's son was indicted by the Supreme Court, when Mr. Narendra Modi ji was accused, none of them stepped down. However, these questions are being raised for the Gandhis, and when the Congress has raised questions on corruption, rightly so, it's raised questions on corruption or issues that divide our country on its social fabrics. The fact of the matter is that since 2013, since Subramaniam Swamy filed this case against the Gandhis in the Enforcement Directorate, he's told you this, not a shred of evidence in the Enforcement Directorate with regards to PMLA has come out against the Gandhis. Allow me to finish and then you rebut me. Yes, there have been observations of the court, right? You've rightly said. No doubt about it, there have been observations. Those are pertaining to income tax matters. In the Enforcement Directorate, we have spokespersons here from the BJP and a very senior journalist. There was an ECI registered when Mr. Swamy went to court. Mr. Swamy told you, Rahul, personally on interview and Times Now, that that was shut by the late Finance Minister Arun Jaitley because the Enforcement Directorate found nothing against the Gandhis. How is it reopened?
So you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Now, again, you're drowning us in the particularities of a case that neither I nor you can judge. And in fact, right now, we're also going across the hallowed words of the Chief Justice of India, who says that the media holds trials. No. You know, the Chief Justice of India pronounces, and he might be watching this show, might agitate him into sending another tweet out, but I just want to assure him I'm not talking about the case. We're not holding a media trial. All I'm simply doing is holding the Congress to the standard it applies to others on probity issues. So forget about everything else. I'm only asking you, Tehseen Sahab, Mr. Poonawalla Sahab, simply, if the Gandhis at the drop of a hat, if the Congress at the drop of a hat can ask for the resignation of all the people, the worthies that you have named, then why doesn't that apply to themselves?
Okay, so let me
the same standard.
Fair point. So let me ask that question with another question, and I hope you ask that. Why doesn't the same standard of probity not apply to the present government, which has converted the Enforcement Directorate, an investigating agency, into, allow me to finish, into finding money laundering into a laundry agency? Now why? Because the same Enforcement Directorate with no court judgments did not go after Jay Shah, whose wealth increased from 80,000 to a couple of crore.
Again, what about, did you give the benefit of doubt? Did you say that the ED was, did you say that the ED was in a witch hunt when it came to Sisodia? Did you say it was in a witch hunt when it came to the other people? Of course you didn't. You asked for Mr. Sisodia's, hang on, what do you mean but? You asked for Mr. Sisodia's resignation.
Sir, ultimately, the point of the Enforcement Directorate is that the Enforcement Directorate...
Sir, you're not, again what about reviewers? You're witnessing today...
If you want the ED to go after the Gandhis, The Gandhis cannot stop
I am not asking for anyone to go after anybody. You see, the Gandhis have set the bar this high.
Yes, they have, which has been
So then why aren't they willing to judge themselves by the standards they have set for others? It's a very simple question.
But primary FIR. There is no primary FIR, and therefore I'm saying a big shot without any evidence.
So when the Congress party went after the Goa chief minister, can you show me where the FIR is?
There were allegations that were made.
No, allegations can be made against any Joe Blow.
And the ED did not investigate it.
You see, viewers, here is the problem. You can move court, sir. If the ED is not investigating, you can move court and force the courts to order an CBI or an ED investigation. So you know about this.
I do that. So the Congress goes.
I'm asking you. You see,
but the fact is, the ED does not act independently.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so that's the point. That's the point. We must go by the point that Tehseen Poonawalla makes, even though he finds it difficult to directly answer my question. Okay,
no, I'm saying the Gandhis would step down if there is a prima facie case.
My dear friend, you didn't give the benefit of doubt to the several other worthies I have just listed their names. You know that. So don't confuse issues. Don't obfuscate. I want to bring in Amit Malviya. Let Amit Malviya respond to you. Mr. Amit Malviya, the ED selective, blah, blah. He says, BJP leaders have never resigned. So why hold us singularly to the standards we set for others?
The argument that the opposition makes that the ED is partisan and that it is acting only against opposition leaders is flawed for several reasons. Let me just list out a few. In every instance that the ED has investigated or raided, it has been at the express instructions of the court, whether it is Partha Chatterjee of the TMC, where we found mountains of cash, or it is NCP leaders Nawab Malik and Anil Deshmukh, which has again found no favor with the judiciary, or for that matter, Satyendra Jain of the Aam Aadmi Party. Despite the honesty certificates handed out by Arvind Kejriwal, he remains in judicial custody. So there is a judicial review behind all these cases, and ED as an agency is doing only what it is expected to and is asked of. Secondly, the ED or any agency is not a direct go-to place. You either go file an FIR or you go to the courts, and the courts therefore order agencies to look into the matter if they prima facie find evidence of wrongdoing. And in all these instances, and in National Herald in particular, the courts have found instances of wrongdoing, impropriety, corruption, defrauding, and what you will have. And therefore, the agency is investigating the matter. Before we jump the gun and call it political vendetta, I'll come to your point, Rahul, but just give me 20 seconds, please. This matter was picked up in 2012. When the UPA was in power, the matter got listed and the courts looked at it and the agencies were asked to register an FIR. The CBI, by the way, has an FIR in this matter in 2013. Now, the fraud per se involves duping thousands of shareholders of AJL.
Yeah, as I said,
money of the Congress
I'm not going into the particularities of the case. So let's first of all shed all of that, because as you know, we have an activist Chief Justice of India who lectures the media on holding trials now in studios. So I'm not even going there. I'm actually deferring to his wisdom, and I'm only asking the most basic question. Do you agree with Tehseen Poonawalla that, look, when the BJP's leaders who have been accused or mired in corruption, etc., when they don't quit, why should the Gandhis quit?
I'll come to that. And while the Chief Justice may have sermonized on media holding kangaroo courts and trials, he hasn't said anything about politicians making a case against corruption indulged in by opposition leaders. So allow me that room and give me 15 seconds. So the fact is that the Gandhis have on multiple levels defrauded the system, the people, and eventually also used their position in office while in UPA to amend the rules of charitable companies or trusts to benefit themselves individually. Now, it was their misfortune that they got voted out and they could not execute their plans to the end. But coming to your question, Rahul, the Gandhis obviously are above the rest. they always believed that they were ordained to rule this country and the rules of the law of the land did not apply to them. And that is exactly what you see happening. The brazenness with which they were amending rules to benefit just one family, a law that has been in existence in 1956, the Companies Law, was amended in 2014 to benefit just the Gandhis. So
okay, they are above the law.
The kind of
they are ordained to rule the country, says BJP's national spokesperson, Mr. Malviya. Lokesh Jindal, quick response. I want to bring in Subhrashtra. I want to bring in Mr. Raja Gopalan right after. Yes. Is there this air of entitlement which makes the Gandhis feel that all standards, all rules apply to others, but they are, of course, above it all? Is that what it is?
No, absolutely not, Rahul. In fact, my dear friend, Mr. Malviya, when he's talking about the Companies Act, then let me tell you, the 2013 Companies Act, in fact, plugged various loopholes which were being exploited by the 1956 Companies Act. So it was made to curb corruption. And secondly, when you're talking about ED and its impartiality, so let me tell you, ED, CBI, SFIO, these are all investigative agencies working under ministries. For example, ED under Ministry of Finance, CBI under Ministry of Personnel, SFIO under Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So you cannot expect them to act independently like that of the CAG, which is an autonomous constitutional body. So when you have an investigative agency fully functioning under the governmental control, undertaking certain form of investigation, so these agencies should not be given the status of that of adjudicating authority. So they are doing their task at the directions of the ruling authority, that is the government. And when we are talking about acts such as PMLA and other prevention of corruption acts, the spirit within which these acts were introduced and the manner in which they are being imposed, these are two different things. Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which was introduced in 2002, was aimed at curbing proceeds of crime, so that whenever there is any form of a money generated from illegal activities and the layering is being done, that could be prevented. That is why it was given the status of that of a criminal case.
Okay, we've got a civics lesson here.
Now,
we've got a civics lesson, viewers. We've got an analysis of the laws, the history, why they were introduced, but I haven't got an answer. Maybe I'm not hearing it because I don't want to hear it, but
the answer, please.
I
Please
certainly don't think that I've got an answer. 1 minute, let me bring in Subhrashtra because this is classic Lokesh Jindal. Thank God he hasn't quoted Heidegger tonight. But okay, I want to come to Subhrashtra. Subhrashtra, is there a case? I'm coming back to the basic debate here. I'm not going into, the particularities of this case because you know how it worries certain people. So I am going to come straight to the question that I've posed. Is there a case for the Gandhis to hold themselves to the standards they judge others by? Or am I conflating two things?
Rahul, you are asking a rhetorical question. You know the answer to this question. The problem is that, with people like Lokesh, for whom I have a lot of respect, he has, constitution and all the constitutional amendments and constitutional benches and all kinds of, pillars of governance on his fingertips. That's fine. But the moot question here is that there is a government in power today. And that government is in power because people like us chose that government. And when we choose a government, it is not just to sit in parliament and disrupt the, workings of the parliament. It is also for them to govern through agencies which are mandated by the very same constitution that Lokesh quotes from. So I don't really see a brouhaha as to why this government should not act in the manner as in which it is acting. The question really in front of us right now is that when Sonia and Rahul, there are many worthies who would like to use the suffix G with their name, and I don't. Sonia and Rahul today are accused of financial misappropriation and fraud. Your, chain, Rahul, your media organization published a fantastic report which talked about how from 5 lakh rupees, their assets have grown. This company's assets have grown to 300 crores with prime locations in Lutyens being usurped by these two individuals. Now, these two individuals are no ordinary individuals. They are individuals who run the opposition in this country today, apparently. I mean, this is at the optics level of it. I'm not going to get into how far they've been effective as an opposition. Any decent individual with an iota of self-worth and an iota of honesty would have come and done a press conference and said that, look, this is a charge on me. maybe when Rahul Gandhi can use all the analogies that he uses, Hitlerian regime, blah, blah, blah. This is what, this regime has really subjected me through, but this is my financial status. These are my bank account details. See, look for yourself. I don't own this 300 crore that I'm being accused of. I don't understand why Rahul and Sonia are shying away from giving out a very honest picture of themselves.
Okay, one second. Let me just step in here. Okay.
And I'm not here to listen to,
Okay, so you're saying that there is a degree of hypocrisy. You expect transparency from everyone else, but block any attempt at making yourself open to scrutiny. Okay. Let me bring in Mr. Raja Gopalan. I'll come out to you, Tehseen Poonawala. You're raising your hand to obviously rebut, so I'll bring you right back in. But Mr. Raja Gopalan, is that the case here? The Gandhis want everyone else to subject themselves to scrutiny but themselves.
Rahul, I think Madam Sonia Gandhi has been above law. And Mr. Rahul Gandhi. The reason being, how that Office of Profit and, the Leopard Award, the Election Commission asked her. These are all certain things. Everyone knows it. I don't want to go into it. It's purely a political question. Madam Sonia Gandhi should come out clearly and say, I am resigning from the post and I am handing it over to Mukul Wasnik or to Mallikarjun Kharge or to some third person, because that first family is involved. It's a criminal act, Mr. Rahul Gandhi did and Madam Sonia Gandhi has done. That is why they are facing the inquiries. And there has been PPP model, public-private participation. But National Herald case is a very typical study case where you profit, you pick and pocket it. This is PPP model of Madam Sonia Gandhi. And at the same time, Mr. Rahul Shivashankar, I would like to explain, the Chinese Rajiv Gandhi Foundation thing also happened. All happened in 2008, 9, 10. So therefore, the criminal intent of the government of that day is being scrutinized by the ED and by the NDA government. That is why I could say, apart from that, since it is a political one, Mr. Rahul Gandhi says that democracy is dead. But my understanding is, it is not democracy which is dead, it is opposition which is dead. The reason being, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, instead of focusing on price rise, he focused on RSS, and he seems to be confused. And my last point is, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, stay back in India, don't undertake 248th foreign visit day after tomorrow.
Okay. So there are a mix of issues here, but I'm going to come back straight to Tehseen Poonawala. Tehseen Poonawala, let me come straight back to you. Yes. There is a problem here. The Congress will get up tomorrow morning and will ask Mr. Sisodia or the Aam Aadmi Party, Sisodia here in Delhi or Aam Aadmi Party in Punjab, for example, to answer on alleged corruption charges. On what basis? When their own president, when the Congress party president is knee deep, I'm not even saying neck deep, I'm giving you the benefit of doubt, knee deep in what appears to be an open and shut case, according to some, of corruption, money laundering, asset stripping.
I'll answer that very specifically. My worthy opponent and fellow panelist from the Bharatiya Janata Party spoke about everything connected to the case and to your question, but could not produce one iota of document that indicts the Gandhi even legally. He says, and rightly
why are we going back to this?
Sir, this is unfair. Please allow me to answer. I will give you the answer. I've understood your question very articulate. Please allow me. Give me the liberty to answer. Yeah. Thank you, sir. He says very accurately, there was a CBI case registered, very accurate, FIR, which Subramaniam Swamy says shut down. When was this registered? During the Congress tenure, which shows that these investigating agencies were not biased then, at least after the Supreme Court wrapped the Congress, then UPA government, they were not. Now the same FIRs are shut down, as Subramaniam Swamy says to none other than you, during the BJP regime. Arun Jaitley shuts it down. Since then, there have been some court observations. There have been charges of 420, 120B, which are not scheduled offences under Enforcement Directorate by themselves. No evidence, no document by the ED to indict them, but the Gandhis have to step down. Compare this to now, sir, and please fact check me. Mr. Babubhai Bokaria, minister in Modi government, continues to be minister after being convicted in jail. After being convicted. Sir, please, Rajgopalanji, let me finish. After being convicted in jail, continues to be minister. Ajay Kumar Mishra, after murdering people, his children continue to be ministers. No accountability there. Amit Shah does not step down. Now let's come to the next point that I raised. Let's come to what is happening with this agency and why there's an objection to this agency. Can the BJP spokesperson in yes or no answer me? 905 raids on opposition, 11 on BJP people. Yes or no? Yes. The conviction rate of the ED, 0.5%. Yes or no? Yes. Did the tenure of the enforcement director against the Supreme Court written judgment was extended after suspending members of parliament? Yes or no? Yes. Why is the Enforcement Directorate acting like the arm of the Bharatiya Janata Party, more like the Bajrang Dal than the ED? And one last question. The Enforcement Directorate, a serious organization, has now become an entertainment department. Rahul, everyone on this panel says, or those who oppose the Gandhis are very privileged, are very powerful. They have colluded to destroy this country. Such powerful people since 2013 keep documents in the National Herald head office when Parliament is on in 2022.
Amit Malviya needs to respond.
For the ED to go.
Okay.
That's rubbish.
Okay. So because the ED's reputation has taken such a beating on the back of a low conviction rate, Tehseen Poonawalla says to Amit Malviya, we know that the ED comes up with nothing. It's a political arm, he calls it the Bajrang Dal or what, God knows what else, of the government at the center. So we don't even take it seriously, it's entertainment. Whatever it does is for entertainment. Amit Malviya?
You know, when you come into a debate like this and you rely only on rhetorical flourish to make a point without having anything substantive to say, you know that Tehseen is on a slippery ground. But let me just ask a very simple question. I keep hearing these Congress spokespeople come and quote a certain law or legislation in defense of the Gandhis. But why is it that the legions of lawyers that they have in their party have not been able to get relief to Sonia and Rahul Gandhi? Why are both of them out on bail in the corruption case? If they were so overboard, as the Congress would like the country to believe, the court should have basically rubbished the case and let them scot-free. But that isn't the case. The courts have actually asked the agencies to look into the matter. Secondly, if the agency's track record is being questioned, it's not for me to defend, because the evidence that the agencies put to the courts, on the basis of that, the courts will decide. So the agencies are doing their job. They will put the details in front of the court, the evidences, what they found, and the courts will eventually decide. My suggestion to the Congress party would be that instead of hitting the ground every now and then, the Gandhis are summoned for questioning, it would be best if they wait till the courts convict them, because clearly they will have to spend a lot of time outside jail waiting for the Gandhis to come out, and they can do so on a rotation basis. But Rahul, coming to your point, these people are in opposition because they indulge in massive corruption and loot, and that is being investigated. I heard Lokesh say that the CAG is a credible organization amongst all the organizations that he spoke about. The same CAG said that there was a 2G spectrum Gotala of 1,76,000 crores, and the Congress actually called it a zero loss scam. So every agency, whether they love it or they don't love it, has indicted the Congress for scams while they were in office, and they are being investigated, and the courts, the rule of law, and the agencies are taking their time.
Okay.
That is the point we got to understand.
You've heard both Tehseen Poonawalla, Mr. Amit Malviya, you've heard the others. The question is not about, as I said, the particularities of the case. It's about the principles surrounding the case. It can hardly be the Congress's position. And I'm sorry I'm editorializing here, viewers, on the back of this debate, very constructive debate. It can hardly be the Congress's position that they ask on the slightest pretext resignation of X opponent or Y opponent, but then conveniently come up with pretexts to defend the Gandhis when someone asks them, why aren't they holding themselves to that exact same principle, that exact same standard? That's the fundamental question. There can be no answers, viewers, when the hypocrisy is so obvious. I leave it at that, but I do congratulate Tehseen and Lokesh Jindal for trying their very level best to spin us around, divert, deflect, and try to obfuscate. That's very worthy. Maybe you should be also going to court and fighting these cases for some of your bosses. I leave it at that, viewers.